We will now begin the program with the opening ceremony.
Peace and greetings. Today, I've been asked to perform libation. My name is Brother Minikek. Some of you also may know me as Malcolm Thomas. And for the past several years, I've had the honor of being able to engage in a ceremonial gesture which helps us to acknowledge not only our ancestors, but the principles of the universe and of nature that allow us to have unity, success, and health. As I go through the libation, I will take this vessel, which contains water, and pour it into this plant, which is a symbol of placing heaven into earth. And through that union, we have life. And so therefore, as I pour this in, sometimes as an audience member, or even where you are, you might say something to affirm that. And one thing people say is, Ashe. So if you want to do that, you can say that. You can also say amen, or whatever makes you feel reverent about the process. As a reminder, we understand that the principles of nature and of the universe are what allow us to have integrity and to truly love one another. The synonym for the word love actually comes from the word law. They are synonyms, love and law, to be able to live by the laws of nature. And so therefore, in loving one person, we are actually loving all people. There's only one love. And in so doing, we have to also acknowledge that all of us are united in a common ancestry that allows us, in tracing that, in honoring that, and in invoking that, we are able to find and salute the ties that bind us. So we start by saying we submit to the one supreme being who comes in and as the many forms of life. And you can say amen or ashe. We acknowledge the principle of oneness. Thank you for giving us the principle of oneness that allows us to know that nothing is against us and that all things which oppose us are there to show us that we can achieve peace and grow toward a greater expression of unity. Ashe. We understand that the one supreme being comes in as the principle of wisdom that allows us to resolve all conflicts with others and to will for ourselves in accord with God's will and will for others as we will for ourselves. Ashe. Who comes as the principle of power that allows us to understand the principle that life pushes us to our limits to show us that we truly have none, and through our ability to remain at peace and in love, we are able to find power, even in the midst of adversity. Ashe. We understand that God comes in as the principle of love itself, of law. We understand that the laws of the universe and of life are there for us to surrender to them, and in so doing, become a blessing to everyone and everything that we meet. Ashe. We give thanks for the one supreme being who comes in and as the principle of justice. We understand that justice is the corrective force that allows us to heal and to restore balance in nature, and allows us to hold ourselves in check and cut ourselves away from our lower nature, and in so doing, secure divine justice and protection for ourselves. Ashe. We give thanks for the one supreme being who comes in and as the principle of freedom. We understand that we have the freedom to choose our response, our thought processes, and our behavior in all situations, and therefore to rise above the animating forces of our being to be able to understand that freedom is something that we have been given by God as our birthright. Ashe. We give thanks for the one supreme being who comes in and as the principle of harmony, the ability to see beauty in all things and to be able to visualize a world where there is no suffering, no sickness, there is unity and there is virtue. Can you imagine a world where all people are able to be blessed, healthy, and happy as one? Ashe. We give thanks for the principle and the endowment of the speech, of the power of the word, to be able to speak and affirm God and good in all things, to be able to speak clearly about the things that connect us, and to truly use communication as a unifying agent. We say Ashe. We give thanks for the principle of devotion, the thing that allows us to be able to learn, to change, therefore to transcend everything in this world. We understand that by sacrificing for the good of others and in the spirit of love, that we are able to invoke the power of God to serve, to heal, and to uplift all people. We give thanks for the principle of this physical body, our very last endowment, which is the ability to come to this earth on the earth plane and to be able to understand that none of the things of this plane last forever. And those changes we must adapt to and learn from in order to make changes in ourselves. And there is something inside of us that is in fact changeless. So 3 times we want to call upon all of the ancestors at this time. This is your part. Your grandmothers, your grandfathers, historical figures. I would like to call upon my grandfather at this time to recognize his contributions and the fact that without these people, without him, in my case, I would not be here. And that we stand on their shoulders, and through this common human family, we are able to understand that there is something much larger than the apparent differences and conflicts that we allow to dominate our lives. As we call upon their names, all of those who passed in the middle passage, all of us who have sacrificed for justice through the ages and through the millennia, all of those nameless, faceless people who have loved, who have given, who have done things that have not been recorded in the annals of history, all of the people who have struggled on behalf of others courageously. 3 times we say, Ashe, Ashe, Ashe. That concludes our libation for today. Thank you for your energies and participation. And remember, one of the keys to success is peace and oneness.
Let us take a moment to remember that the land we are on is stolen land and built by stolen people. Many legacies of violence, displacement, forced migration, and settlement bring us to where we are today. I'm on the land now called Pittsburgh, with evidence of inhabitation for over 19,000 years. Pittsburgh was a place where tribes and peoples came after they were forced off of their ancestral homes to the east by European colonizers. The Monongahela, the Hopewell, and the Osage were some of the original stewards of this land, later followed by the Seneca, the Lenape, the Shawnee, the Mingo, and many more known, yet unnamed. Adrienne Wong of the Spiderweb Show invites us, and I paraphrase, to take a moment to consider the legacy of colonization embedded within the technologies, within the structures, and ways of thinking we use every single day. Our activities are shared via the internet. We're using devices and high-speed internet that's not even available in many indigenous communities. With that being so, the technologies that are central to much of the work we do and the art we make also leave significant carbon footprints that contribute to climate changes that disproportionately affect indigenous peoples worldwide. In other words, the wealthiest countries have contributed the most to climate pollution, greatly impacting poor folks and poor countries that have contributed the least. Adrienne Wong and the Pittsburgh Racial Justice Summit invites us to join in acknowledging the digital colonization of all this, as well as our collective responsibility to make good of this time and for each of us to consider our roles in reconciliation, in decolonization, and in solidarity. We also pay respect to the Black indigenous people who were stolen from their homeland and brought to the Indian subcontinent, North America, South America, the Caribbean islands, the Middle East, and throughout the world. We acknowledge the suffering endured from the cruelty of the horrible institution of genocide, slavery, racialization, segregation, and the continued oppression of Black and brown people throughout the world. We pay respect to our elders and the people of this land, past and present, our lineage and future generations. I invite you now to find your seat. Allow your body to be as comfortable as possible, as it wants to be, as it can be in this moment. You can be sitting, perhaps your body wants to lie down. Honor that. And together, let's take a collective breath. On the in-breath, feeling your belly rise and your heart open as you widen into community. On an out-breath, feel the dynamic tension between heaven and earth as you lengthen, widen, taking up your full space, your rightful space. Thank you for joining us for the 24th Annual Pittsburgh Racial Justice Summit.
Until justice prevails. Emmett Till was murdered in 1955, on August 28, 1955. We are still, close to 66 years, fighting for justice. Something is wrong with that.
Yeah.
When the last living accomplice has never been charged, has been covered in police protection, judicial protection. Sounds similar, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Okay? So where are we today? We have not made much progress.
She had rights, but her rights were overlooked by the law, who was here to service and protect when the police pull y'all over. When the police do things that you guys feel is not right, they will tell you to put your phones down. Do not put your phone down.
Hi, everybody. I'm Deesha. I am the lead organizer for the summit this year. I am a Black femme presenting woman with glasses, pink hair, and a pink sweater. You see a work of art behind me with pink, blue, gold, and white. And I actually wanted to start by welcoming you all. Thank you so much for everyone who participated in making this ceremony what it is today. We're so excited to have you. This year's summit is focused on equity in action, navigating intersections of racial justice. What this means to us here at the summit is taking time to examine how we navigate our other identities in addition to our Blackness. This is an action of equity that we do for ourselves and for our communities. Finding a sense of balance in our intersections is a job like no other. Expressing what our community needs in order to function equitably is an advocacy that we do, but should not have to do. We teach ourselves, we teach other people. We do for, do with, and share on. And that is how equity is built. And that is what we're here to do this weekend. Build equity and take it back into our communities from this space and to the many other spaces we all come from. Welcome to the 24th annual Pittsburgh Racial Justice Summit. And now our founder, Tim Stevens, is going to say a few words for us. Welcome, Tim.
Welcome to everybody. Thank you, Deesha. On behalf of the Black and White Reunion's Racial Justice Summit Planning Committee, it is my pleasure and honor to welcome each and every one of you to this, our 24th annual Racial Justice Summit. We've been blessed to find a way to continue the work begun following the death of Johnny E. Gamage, which occurred on October 12th, 1995, at the hands of suburban white police officers. And for each year to be able to identify new and committed individuals to make certain that the summit indeed takes place. I personally wish to thank each dedicated member of the planning committee, led this year by Deesha Baker, our summit lead coordinator, and our media coordinator, vocalist, activist, Fat Man D, our social media coordinator. We continue our work built on the legacy and the legendary dedication of people such as my friend, Ann Mason, who was our treasurer for many, many years, and was with me when we launched the Black and White Reunion from my position as then president of the NAACP Pittsburgh branch, and stayed with us until her death on November 8th, 2019. We salute other early members such as Bob Maddock, Mark and Tris Ozark, Craig Stevens, and the late George Hogan, who stayed active with us for many years. And we acknowledge the more passionate leadership of one of our former summit coordinators, Yvette Lynn Shipman, who through her visionary spirit has moved the participation and impact of the summit far beyond the borders of Pittsburgh, and acts to this day as a key advisor to our work and is our treasurer. We acknowledge our former media coordinator, Nicole Fena, who continued to help source the early work of this year's summit. Janet Lund, who keeps our minutes and handles some of our internet communications. Isaac Beach, who has coordinated our website and earlier our program booklet, now coordinated by Bonnie Evans. James Scott, who has for years quietly and strongly supported the summit in any way needed. And Thea Young, who jumps on buses to go places to drop off our flyers to promote the summit. All of whom have been with us for years and Thea for quite a few. And for new members, such as Maddie Porter, who is assisting as we speak with some of our technical needs. With the inspiring leadership of Kevin Jarboe, who for the past few years partnered with Phoebe Den, supported by now his wife, Caroline, and who with other Racial Justice Committee members has been able to continue to provide some of the attendees with numerous powerful, thought-provoking workshops, with some 33 workshops being provided for this Saturday's summit. We thank all of our financial sponsors, be they large or small, who helped make the summit possible, and for the leadership of Bertie Radford on that important effort. We continue our commitment to provide Johnny Gamage scholarships to 2 or 3 area law students of color who demonstrate an interest in seeking justice and equity in the legal systems of the Pittsburgh region and beyond. Your donations have helped us continue this important tradition of the summit. We thank Rosemary Crawford Esquire, who has for many years provided us the social justice questions for the Johnny Gamage applicants to consider. In my opinion, as an activist of more than 50 years, we are unfortunately at a pivotal moment in the history of our nation. Laws, policies, procedures, and traditions, which I and many others thought were deeply rooted in the fabric of our country have been and are being, in too many instances, uprooted, violated, and destroyed. We who call ourselves activists cannot allow these un-American activities to continue, and that's what they are, un-American activities. We must be registered to vote with a commitment to vote in each and every election as urged by the Black Political Empowerment Project, BPEP. And we must continue to advocate and agitate to accomplish the diversity, equity, and inclusion and justice that we seek for all. We must fight laws that are being introduced, promoted, and in some instances passed, which are aimed at disenfranchising Black, brown, and young people to have the full right and opportunity to vote. We thank all of our summit workshop presenters who are seeking breakthroughs for all disenfranchised people, and our key presenters and those who led and participated in the Black and White Reunion Racial Justice Summit Town Hall meeting, which took place on Thursday, December 9th, 2021, and coordinated for the last several years by Gada Makoshi. We thank tonight's presenters, our internationally renowned Pittsburgh authors, Damon Young, Deesha Philyaw, and Brian Broome, for kicking off our 24th annual Black and White Reunion Summit, and for setting the tone for the work we must do tomorrow and the work we must do for the months and years to come. We thank our interpreters who are helping to make the words of our speakers more accessible to others. We thank the Heritage Gospel Chorale of Pittsburgh for that rousing rendition of Lift Every Voice and Sing. Our planning council asks that you use this weekend and tonight to recommit yourself to meaningful and impactful activism. We ask that you stay the course. How many of you will be with us? I may not be here, but will you be here 24 years from now, still fighting the battle for freedom? Focus on our theme, equity in action, navigating intersections of racial justice, and use the workshops tomorrow to inspire yourself, to help lead you into this new year of 2022 with a new level of commitment to make a difference in your lives and in the lives of all around you. Thank you.
Hello again, everybody. It's me, Deesha. A reminder that I am a Black woman with curly pink hair, wearing glasses, and a pink sweater. In my background, you can see a whiteboard with undistinguishable writing and a painting of a flower with gold, pink, white, and blue. And now for our fireside chat to begin. As Tim said, and as we know, these speakers don't need much of an introduction. Just their names is alone all we need today. I'd like to give my sincerest welcome, though, to the people who have shown the world that Pittsburgh has a story, a Black story and history. And although their words are a rare kind of unique and perspective equally so, their words run parallel, like I know this conversation will. Welcome to the stage, Deesha Philyaw, Damon Young, and Brian Broome.
Thank you, Deja.
Hey.
Hey, Brian. Hey,
Hey,
Damon.
Hey there.
What's up?
My camera's fuzzy. Hold on.
Wait.
Yeah, mine too. I have like a lot of glare happening right now. Just I feel like I'm I don't know. I feel like I'm like on the sun.
It's like you're like it's like a TikTok, like with filters and stuff. Where you're
Yeah, I feel like I am an avatar right now. Like
Hold on. I'm gonna
Demolition
leave and come
Man.
back. I'm gonna leave and come back because I'm too fuzzy.
All right, Brian's gonna come back.
I think the fuzziness is caused by a robe. I think that's why he is so fuzzy right now.
Those are pajamas. Those are actually pajamas that I got him when he won the Kirkus Prize.
Okay. Well, I still think that's accounting for the fuzz. I think all the fuzz, yeah.
Okay, there we go. Okay. I am thrilled to be here, part of this summit. You know, I've been a part of the summit multiple times. I've been a part of it once with Damon. But when the invitation came and it was to be with the two of you, of course, you know, I did not hesitate to say yes. So I am really looking forward to our conversation. I have some things I want to talk to y'all about. So unless somebody else wants to start, I'll start.
No, you start.
Go ahead, Deesha. Lead the way.
Okay.
Let's go.
All right. Okay. So I have been reading a lot of speculative fiction, dystopian stuff by Black writers and lately. And what's unsettling is that it's supposed, and satire too, but those things are supposed to be extremes. They're supposed to be unrealistic, you know, fiction, but they are very disturbingly close to real life these days, our real lives in this country. So I want to pivot from these dystopias that I've been reading about and to talk about utopia. So my first question for both of you is, what does a Pittsburgh utopia look like to you from a racial justice perspective?
I mean, Deesha, you're supposed to lead up to these questions. Okay,
I only have one setting.
This is the warm up. We're supposed to be joking about like the weather.
You should be worried about the next two questions.
And Brian's, you know, purple pajamas. That's what we should be talking about right now.
Those are his TLC I Creep pajamas. You remember the video?
Oh yeah, I definitely remember that video. Yeah, I remember that dance. I remember the butterfly. Yeah.
What does a Pittsburgh utopia look like? You only have one setting. You know, it's hard. It's hard for me to actually, I'm not real good with coming up with utopian like scenarios. Like I tend to be, I see the dark side in everything. But, you know, I was talking to, I forget who I was talking to earlier today. And I was talking to my friend Brian. And I was saying how, you know, there are very few integrated neighborhoods like in Pittsburgh, it feels like. You know, in Pittsburgh, there is white neighborhood, black neighborhood, white neighborhood, black neighborhood. I mean, I think that's a start, you know, to have more integration. But I mean, again, you know, that is on purpose. You know, it has always been on purpose. So if we can't even tackle what seems like a simple issue of living together, like I don't know what to say. I don't know where to start, you know. So I mean, that's what it would begin to look like for me in terms of a utopia.
Yeah, I'm with Brian in that it's hard for me to envision like utopia in a larger sense. Like when I think of that term, maybe because I'm just naturally selfish and egocentric, I think of what would be utopic for me. and perhaps to extrapolate that out. And utopia for me, the number one thing would be safety, right? And feeling welcomed, feeling safe, feeling, not like you're in danger, not like you have to always be vigilant. And I feel like that's a very low bar ask right there. But I think that alone, would change the lives of so many Pittsburghers, so many Black Pittsburghers, if that was possible. And then once you get past that, I think just, and again, my vision of utopia is, it seems like a doable, circumstance where I'm thinking everyone has a living wage, people are able to be fulfilled with their work and with their families. So I'm thinking of what I would love to have continue, and not necessarily always feel like things get, whatever success, whatever progress can get snatched away in a blink. So yeah, that would be it for me. Again, this is probably why I don't write fiction, because I can't think past my own hand right now. This is fiction writer, the envisioner. What's your vision of utopia in Pittsburgh?
Well, I will just say, I love your answer, because it is, I wanted to know specifically, for the two of you, for you personally, because I think we have to envision it, on that micro level first, and then, and as you said, it just sort of ripples from there. Because if you feel personally safe in your community, then that speaks to the larger community itself. And it's not so much that I disagree with you, Brian, but a thought that did come to my mind when you were talking about, because certainly this city needs to be, the segregation in the city is obvious, and it's a problem, and it reflects the systemic disparities that are here. But when you were talking, I immediately thought of something that Dr. King said, towards the end of his life. He said, I fear that I'm integrating my people into a burning building.
Yeah.
And so we can be alongside each other in neighborhoods or in workplaces or in institutions, but if those inequities are still present, it's a problem. And I think that that's one of the problems that Pittsburgh has, is that we sometimes the optics are shitty, but even when the optics are good, the underlying inequity is still there. And so my utopia would be something where when you peel back the layers, it's not rotten, that there is that equity, and there is that opportunity, and there's redress. It didn't take this, the disparities in Pittsburgh around race and gender didn't happen overnight. They can't be solved overnight. And so, my utopia would be when we peel back those layers, and that there's an investment of time and energy, that foundationally, those kinds of disparities, historical disparities, are addressed. All right, so this is a writer question, specific writer question.
Great.
Fill in the blank. This is easier, I think.
Yes.
Black writers in Pittsburgh need what? Black writers in Pittsburgh need
money.
Money.
Everything.
Yes. Yes.
Everything, in my opinion. It's interesting to me. So when I first started writing, the first person who who I think kind of gave me my first paying gig was Damon, right? For VSB. And another Black writer who was just ahead of me, in the queue, gave me a break. Deesha, you and I have the same agent. We have two of the same agents, right? And three.
Well, two now. We had three. Anyway, sorry.
Three, but now we have two of the same agent, right? And that comes from the fact that our literary agent, I think, was the only one that was willing to read Black work you know, like the only one that I could find, or the only one that I've known who sought out the work of Black writers, right? And when I was originally sort of getting started, like people were telling me, you know, locally, like, well, we already have a Damon Young. Like, you are a Black writer. We already have a Black writer. His name is Damon Young. Haven't you heard of him? You know, so just that door, that open door is what's needed, you know, and like Damon said, money, just support, like in general, you know, I think that there are a lot of talented Black writers in the city who aren't getting a break because, you know, somebody behind me isn't getting a break because somebody's telling them we already have a Brian Broome and we already have a Damon Young, and some woman who's trying to write is being told we already have a Deesha Philyaw. It's this idea of scarcity that I think doesn't allow Black writers to be heard. So yeah, my answer is everything.
I just want to say really quickly is that only someone in a purple purple pajamas can just say multiple agents and not even blink. And just spit that out. Like, oh yeah, right. We share multiple agents right now and not even blink.
Did you happen to hear where I got these pajamas? These are the pajamas Deesha gave me as a gift. I forget what it was for, but yeah, I just
forgot what it's for because he's won so many prizes he doesn't remember.
Yeah,
you remember. But again, there's not really much more I could say that Brian hasn't already said. You know, there's that, you know, scarcity model that I think people maybe subscribe to, where they believe that, you know, if you have a certain number of people who are, you know, successful, then that number is static, and that there is even such thing as a number, right? Because there could be as many as there are here. There doesn't have to be a number. There could just be waves of people, and there are waves of talented people here, right? Who just need the opportunity, need the platform, need the resources. You know, there's a basketball blogger that I follow. His name is David Thorpe, and he talks about a concept called royal jelly, and that concept is, you know, and he talks about this from a sports concept, obviously, and how, you know, with basketball players who are considered all-stars or stars or whatever, for 50% of them, where they were drafted dictated their future. Like the coaching they got, the nurturing they got, the validation they received, and there's the other 50% that LeBron James would have been LeBron wherever he went, right? And so I'm just thinking about that in terms of, you know, the I guess growing, you know, the number here, and I think that nurturing, that mentorship for people who have been successful is vital. Just so, you know, and there are so many parts of this industry that we know now, but, you know, 10, 15 years ago, did I know what a book proposal was? Did I know the difference between a fiction and a nonfiction proposal? And there are people probably listening to this right now, writers who are aspiring, who maybe don't know the difference between those two things. And I think that type of education, which again, now, since we're, you know, knee deep in the game, is old hat, can help, you know, can help move that wave up. So along with the institutional support, along with the, you know, with the city support, I think that, you know, there are ways that people who have succeeded, have been successful, can also, you know, aid that. And, you know, the pandemic has really put, you know, I don't know, has really put a stop to a lot of plans that, you know, we've had behind the scenes to do a thing like this. And, you know, it's just so much, things can still be done virtually, but it is better, you know, to at least have the in-person component too. So there's that. But it is something, you know, that we, all three of us, have been, you know, behind the scenes, you know, thinking about and dreaming about, and hoping to bring to the city. And so, but I think that part also is very, very necessary.
And I'll just add, something a little more granular to what you both have said, which is I think Black writers in Pittsburgh need to be received and perceived and respected as artists at every stage of their development, because they're too often, I mean, this city has a wonderful Black, literary legacy, and then there are these big gaps, and the city loves a successful Black writer, right? Mm-hmm. But how many have left? August Wilson left, and that's when he became August Wilson, once he left. Now, he took his Pittsburgh stories, and that's what made his career, the stories and the writing, but he was in Seattle, he was in Minneapolis, and so it's a larger issue of viewing writing, the discipline, the art of writing as an art. Like we view the other arts, and being willing to fund and support artists at all levels, writers at all levels of their careers. And I say that, not only to, call out our philanthropic institutions that don't always support individual artists, don't always view, and are sort of late to the game in financially supporting artists, literary artists, writers, compared to other disciplines. And then I think about some years ago, there was an article in the Tribune Review where there was a writer who wrote that article, a journalist, was writing about what does it take to survive as an artist here in the city. And that writer interviewed sculptors and dancers and choreographers and painters in every discipline except writing. And I think that's that speaks volumes. So I feel like the city is kind of playing catch up. And as Damon said, the three of us and our friend Tony Norman and our friend Yona Harvey, we talk a lot about, how we can make that difference. But I would love to see just our culture here and our institutions really embrace writers, Black writers as artists early on.
And just to jump on that too, Deesh, and this isn't necessarily just a Pittsburgh specific thing. I see this with Black writers nationally, internationally, where there's this conflation of artistry and activism, where I think writers, Black writers particularly, and if you write about race, if you write about gender, if you write about sex, if you write about any sort of social justice-y topic, then you are considered an activist, right? Yeah. And you could have some activist-minded themes in your work, but I consider activists to be a vocation. Right. And I don't consider myself to necessarily be one. I'm a writer. I'm a writer first. I'm an artist. And I can write about activism, and I can write about, social justice, and all those themes are just infused in my work. But again, I think that a lot of that happens because there are these ties that are made, because if we're Black, then we must be activists first. Right, instead of artists first. Right. And that's a thing that, again, I don't just see that in Pittsburgh. I see that nationally, where and I'm sure you've all experienced this when you do book talks, and you get in front of people and they talk about like how important your work is and how vital it is to the cause, and all that stuff might be good and true, whatever, but it's mostly I want to make a change. I want to make a difference, but mostly I enjoy the craft of writing. I want to get the shit that's in my head, and I want to make sense of it, and I want to get it on the page. And so that part, the artistic part, I think is neglected, or at least the conversation about the artistry of Black writers is neglected, because the activism thing seems to be, I don't know, seems to be pushed a bit forward.
Yeah, I agree. I see the same thing. And so when I interview writers, you know, who like I have a book coming out and they ask me to be in conversation with them, I always make sure to ask them craft questions because, you know, we don't get enough credit for the craft, you know, because it's, well, you know, we're writing about, as you said, you know, politics or trauma or whatever. And we are, but we are also, you know, working on our craft, and our books reflect our craft as well as our biographies or, you know, our autobiographies. Brian, did you want to say anything? I don't want to move on.
I just was going to say, it reminds me, and I can't remember, I'm blanking on her name, the Black woman science fiction writer.
Octavia Butler.
Octavia Butler. Like, I remember reading something about her. I mean, she wrote science fiction. She wrote about, you know, aliens and, you know, and monsters and, you know, outer space. And whenever I remember reading something from her saying, like, when she would go on book talks, people would be asking her, like, what, you know, what is this really about? You know, what is it really? Like, they're trying to get her to talk about race because she was a Black writer. You know, what is this book really about? What are you really trying to say? And she would be like, I'm trying to say that this is an alien, and this is, you know, and this is outer space, and this is a spaceship. You know, everybody's like always trying to get to the heart of what, you know, what activism her books were trying to bring out. And she was like, I'm writing stories about outer space. Like, you know, why can't it just be that? So it just reminded me of, you know, of what Damon was saying, like, about, you know, looking for the activism. I think the activism is absolutely important, but, you know, I think, you know, we are rarely seen as just storytellers, you know, and that is, you know, what I hope my book is first and foremost about. Like, Deesha, I know that's what your book is first and foremost about, but, like, you know, there may be stories that certain people haven't heard before. There may be stories that certain people haven't experienced before, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's activism. I think the best way, you know, to approach activism is storytelling, you know, and getting people to listen and understand your story. The best thing I've heard about what I've produced is all these different kinds of people telling me how they relate to it, you know, because when I wrote the book, I was like, well, this is going to be for Black gay boys. And it ended up not just being for Black gay boys, you know, it ended up being for more different kinds of people than I had imagined, you know, and that is, you know, through storytelling, that is a form of activism.
You know, I think also too, there's this like really just nebulous, annoying assumption that if you are a Black person and you write and you have any themes in regards to race, you know, that touch on race in your book, then your audience is white people, or the intent for you writing is to change white people, to help white people learn. And it's like, I you know, if white people get some shit from the things that I write, that is awesome, that is great. Good for you. Buy my book. Okay, pay me money, whatever. But, you know, again, my reason for writing is very, like, self-centered, right? First, and then yes, I want people to see themselves in my work and to feel, you know, feel seen, feel validated, feel represented, whatever. But, you know, whether or not white people read the work and then are inspired to change, it's like, if that happens, that's great. But, you know, that's the rub. That's not the steak. Right. Yeah. And again, I think if more people realize that, and not just white people realize that too, you know, then and I think that's connected to just the whole, you know, the scarcity model, the you know, the mentorship, the you know, bringing waves forward, and also creating a more nurturing environment for Black writers who succeed, not just in Pittsburgh, but anywhere.
Yeah. Just to remind folks that we're going to talk for the three of us for a few more minutes, and then we'll open up for Q&A. But there is a question that came through the live feed that I want to talk about now, because we are talking about supporting Black writers in Pittsburgh. And someone was asking the question if we could do a writing workshop for Black writers. And, you know, when we were referring to, you know, us trying to organize something. We've been trying to do something that would include workshops for Black writers. But the tricky thing about being, any kind of artist is you're trying to do your art and you're mentoring and teaching and all of that. And it's tough to always find the time to get to do things other than your work, if you're prioritizing your work and then you have a family. But I think, I'll speak for myself and then Damon and Brian can speak to it as well. I have carved out that time. I've taught writing workshops. Years ago, I used to teach at the Pittsburgh Center for the Arts in person. And then in 2020 and 2021, in addition to my book tour, I was constantly teaching workshops virtually. And you can find out about where I've been teaching. I'm usually tweeting about it, sometimes on Instagram. And so I am not teaching right now. I think I was done teaching in like early December. That was my last workshop. And now I'm working on new projects. So I think I'm like a lot of artists in that there's sometimes when I'm teaching and then sometimes I'm just doing my own work. So I don't know, Brian or Damon, if you want to speak to that.
I too have taught workshops. I've taught workshops at the Pittsburgh Center for the Arts. I've done a few, workshops at different schools, and that was before the book. And books being in the world they stretch you in 10 different directions. So it's hard. And then like the idea of getting us three together. I mean, I can't even get Deesha on the phone half the time.
That is a lie. I'm pulling up the call log. You go ahead.
I think I'm not opposed to it, but the unfortunate thing, is that I used to write, and I still do write for catharsis and for fun and for challenge, but now it's how my money comes into my home, and that makes it really difficult to do things that you want to do, because you're being pulled in a bunch of different directions. The more writing that I do, the more writing it seems that is required. And so, I just took a job with the Washington Post, and they don't play. They want their deadlines. You know what I'm saying? Like, so it's hard to get away to do things. But I have taught high school kids. That's rough, but it's fun. It's really a lot of fun. And I do talks and things like in the area. I just did a talk at Brashear, but I haven't done a writing workshop in a while. But I'd like to if time permits.
Everything Brian just said. Yeah. Yeah, everything you just said.
I'm going to ask my last question, and then I'm open to your questions for me. I told you I was going to work toward the tough questions. Y'all thought I started with the tough questions.
Okay.
From each of you, top 3 reasons why the RNC should not be held in Pittsburgh.
Because it shouldn't be held anywhere. I've not been shy about the fact that I'm not a fan of the Republican Party. There may have been a time in which it was respectable, but it has devolved into, I think, a unabashedly white supremacist organization. It has, I think the Republicans are one of the places in America where like you are lauded, like, it is rewarded to be racist. Rush Limbaugh just passed, but he made a whole career out of it. And now we have, these people in power who I literally think sometimes are just unbalanced. That's my reasons 1, 2, and 3. This is I don't really know how Pittsburgh falls demographically in terms of Republican, Democrat, but I think, we typically go blue, except for that unfortunate Trump year. That might be reason number two. But I mean, I just don't think it should be held at all. But that's, of course, a pipe dream. It will be held. I don't know if it will be held in Pittsburgh, but I hope it doesn't happen.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be a freak show attracting all the worst white people in the country. You know what I mean? And we already have enough here in Pittsburgh, right? Like, and again, Pittsburgh is traditionally Democratic, traditionally leans left. I think I don't know if we've even ever had a Republican mayor, or at least not in my lifetime. Okay. Like I remember when Ed Gainey won the primary, and people who are not from the city, were talking to me about it's like, oh, well, he still has to go. And the general's like, no. He's the mayor. Now, if you win the Democratic primary, you are the mayor of Pittsburgh, because there's not going to be a Republican, challenger that's going to get any sort of vote. But again, validating those people, bringing them here, and I just think that, it gets back to my first answer about how to make Pittsburgh a utopia for Black people, and safety. Safety is the number one thing. Safety is that's the number one need for anyone. And by inviting these people to our city, yes, it might be an economic boon, but you are jeopardizing the health, the wealth, and the well-being, and not just not just like some mental or emotional, but actual physical health of people in this city. And again, not just us, although I shouldn't have to say that, but we're not just talking about just Black people's health and wealth and well-being being jeopardized too. Because when you bring those people here, then madness ensues, and there's going to be protests, there's going to be riots, there's going to be police, like all that is going to happen. And is the money that we possibly get from the convention centers and the hotels and the restaurants downtown worth the national spotlight, the international spotlight being on Pittsburgh, and possibly Pittsburgh burning because of all of the protests, all of the stuff that will happen, that will definitely happen if they come here. And so do we want that? Is it worth all of that?
Yeah.
And Damon, you mentioned the city making a decision that will economically benefit some at the expense of the rest of us. And unfortunately, Pittsburgh has that as a legacy, and it has been at the expense of Black folks, so-called economic progress on our backs. And even though the county is Democratic leaning, the same day that I read about the city entertaining the idea of bringing the RNC here, there was also an article saying, I think it was the FBI, that said Pittsburgh is in the tops of cities with white supremacist activity that the FBI is monitoring. So both of those things are true. And so it is a powder keg. And it's also a slap in the face, I think. You can't say at the same time that we're trying to do better when it feels like the same old thing. This is an old story of pursuing some sort of economic boon at the expense of the well-being of Black folks. So I will turn it over to you, my friends. Thank you for answering my questions.
Thank you, Deesha, for all of those. Those weren't exactly soup questions. I was expecting all the soup questions tonight, and you came with, came with some chili questions. So.
I know. One speed. You got one setting, and that's intense. That's it. Yeah. I was wondering about, and you and I haven't discussed it, Deesha, but last year you wrote a piece for Bloomberg that got a lot of attention. The Secret Lives of Black Pittsburgh Women, I think is what it was called, or the Not So Secret Lives of Black Pittsburgh Women. And in it, you talked about the problems this city faces, not just with regard to race, but with regard to, gender and gender expression. And, you wrote some hard truths. A lot of them, the people found difficult to swallow. I remember I posted the piece on my social media page, and there were all these comments like, she hates Pittsburgh, we'll go on and leave then, from different kinds of people, So, my question is I know what you've decided to do. You've been very open about what you've decided to do, but I'm wondering, I don't know, you feel good about that decision? Just what is your general feeling about that piece that you wrote? If that makes any sense.
I'm really proud of it. And I'm proud because Damon said this earlier, that, the activism rooted in storytelling, and that's how I choose. That's primarily where my activism lies. I mean, I've been boots on the ground, and I'm sure I will be again. But I like to run my mouth, in my writing. And that piece came about not because I wanted to write about that, or I didn't sit down and say, let me write this article about, Pittsburgh and, being the worst city in America for Black folks, and Black women in particular, based on the city's own findings. I had that in the back of my mind. I also had in the back of my mind, how forever, since the gentrification began in East Liberty, we've talked about the tale of two cities of Pittsburgh, and how it's, most livable for whom, those are the questions you guys know. We're always talking about that stuff, and we have been. And then to see the then mayor then co-opt that language at election time, after, ignoring it policy-wise and politically. So all of these things were kind of converging at the same time. And I knew I was going to be leaving Pittsburgh in 2022 when my youngest daughter graduates high school, but I didn't know where I was going to go. And so just kind of flippantly, which is my setting usually on Twitter, I was like, I need a Blacker city. Tell me, sell me on your city. Tell me where to go in 2022. And that tweet went viral with, everybody from just everyday people to Ava DuVernay to Roxane Gay to mayors and city council people from other cities saying, come here and here's why, or don't come here and here's why. So, that happened. And then all of us are friends with Brenton Mock, who is a writer and editor at the Atlantic City Lab. He reached out and said, do you want to write about this further? And I was like, maybe, I got to think about it. I was like, everything I said in the tweet, but when I sat down to think about, well, what else do I want to say? It's easy to be flippant. It's easy to be pithy. But I realized that, I had more to say, that I really did want to address the mayor directly, because I felt like, he in particular, but representing, I think, the city as a whole, was kind of playing in our faces with the lip service around the city being livable, but livable, and yet, all of these disparities. It's a livable apartheid city. The math ain't mathin' on that one. And so once I got going beyond the tweet, and thinking about what my experience has been like here, and then thinking beyond myself, because I can pick up and leave, but for most people, whether it's Pittsburgh or anywhere else, you simply can't do that. And there is something that I think that when people have built their lives here and raised their families here, and they've been here for generations, and it's their city as much as anyone else's, they shouldn't have to pick up and leave. The city, just like, we talk about the debt that's owed Black Americans by this country, the promissory note that Dr. King talked about. I feel like the city of Pittsburgh has that same debt to Black Pittsburghers. And I think everything that happens here is either going toward paying that debt or increasing the debt even further. There is no neutral here. And so people are very polite in the conversations about these things. And I think that being neutral and polite it allows for more of the same. So I was really happy to have the opportunity to just kind of say all the things that I say to you, the two of you, but to say it on a broader scale, and to say it to other Black women here. I'm not leaving and then peace, good luck or whatever. It bothers me that everybody doesn't have the opportunities that I've had here, that I've had these opportunities and success in spite of the city and not because of it. So I'm happy to have heard from Black women who felt validated by the things that I said. And that's all I really, cared about there. People who were like, well, then she should leave then. I mean, that's not a good faith comment. I don't really think about it. But yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to California for a while, just because I do want to see. I've been in Pittsburgh a very, very long time. Haven't really gone many places until recently, right? Because I want to see, if in America, different places are different. Will I have a different Black experience, in the Bay Area that I have had for the past, decades in Pittsburgh? I want to know, will it be different? And my pat answer to people who talk to me about Pittsburgh is, how bad is it here race wise, and how bad is it here as a gay man? How bad is it here? I don't know, because I don't have any frame of reference, So that's, your leaving has kind of inspired me to leave for a bit. I don't know how long or anything like that, but I do want to see if it's different elsewhere. And Damon, you obviously decided to stay here. I mean, because of your love for the city, what is, or is it, why are you smiling? Why did you decide to stay? Deesha's leaving, I'm taking a hiatus. What you're staying?
Well, one thing I think that distinguishes us, I'm from here too, so I have those. I have a bit more of a tie here, but I am here now, right? But yeah, we bought a house, 3 years ago. But buying the house is not a blood oath. I am not, I'm not in the mafia or anything. I could leave. And the question of whether or not to leave Pittsburgh, I mean, it's like asking a Black Pittsburgher that question is like asking, what are you going to have for dinner tomorrow night? I mean, there could be, if you ask me at 4 o'clock, it could be steak. If you ask me at 6 o'clock, it could be breakfast for dinner. I mean, so you ask me next month if I want to stay, the answer could be yes. You ask me a day after that, the answer could be no, right? Because that is a perpetual, juggling that I think most of us have here. Even the ones who have decided to create some sort of roots or create some sort of village or family or whatever, there's still always that, I won't say a foot out the door, but the door's open. The door's cracked a bit, always. But for now, I'm here, and my family, I'm from here. My wife is from here, and as Deesha kind of alluded to, when she was speaking, I have the privilege of not relying on Pittsburgh to make money. And it's funny because, when people used to ask, why haven't you left? It was because I couldn't afford to leave. All the other places that I would go, would have been more expensive with a higher cost of living. And, I wasn't making a whole lot of money and would have, had to get a real job. Right. If I wanted to live somewhere else. No, I'm not doing that. and so now, I've been fortunate and privileged to, have a change in financial circumstance, but Pittsburgh, hasn't right now. I don't make any money from Pittsburgh. You know what I mean? And so that gives me some flexibility, and it also gives me a bit of a freedom to, to have these sorts of conversations, because I know that I'm not necessarily worried about, a local income stream drying up because I said something uncomfortable about the city. But yeah, I mean, I'm here right now. I'm here today. If you ask me that question next week, I could maybe have put my house on the market. Like it's like that's that, and I feel like that is the reality for most Black people here.
So I think we're at the point, unless somebody else has a burning question, I think we now open it up for Q&A. Brian, Damon.
How do I look in these pajamas?
Rihanna is somewhere, billionaire that she is, saying, damn, he looks good.
Yeah, Rihanna's on this chat.
The only thing I was waiting for, that's the only reason I got on this thing, was to tell me somebody to tell me I look cute in these pajamas.
You do, Brian. I appreciate the infusion of color. I've decided to wear black all the time because if I can't live in New York, I'm going to dress like I live in New York.
You're going to dress like a lit major?
Yeah, I'm going to dress like I'm on the subways, all the time. But yeah, I do appreciate, getting a chance to have this conversation, because these also serve as like check-ins, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Because we're all doing a bunch of things, and I have no idea where either of you are right now. Like you could be here. I don't know.
I'm at Rihanna's house.
Okay, Brad's at Rihanna's house. Deesha somewhere with exposed brick.
This is my house. This is my house. I'm in Pittsburgh.
She could be anywhere.
I am here.
And so I particularly since we're on outside punishment because of the pandemic, I just appreciate these opportunities to just, hey, how you doing? Oh, you're looking good. It's good to see you.
Yeah.
It's good to see you.
And the group chat.
This doesn't happen. In the group chat. The group chat too. The group chat be popping. The group chat.
Yes.
The group chat definitely. Particularly these two. Like I'm more of a reader. I treat their group chat like I tweet. Like I treat Twitter, where I don't tweet. I'm not a Twitter person. I read tweets, and so yeah.
Tahira Walker. Hi, Dr. Walker.
Hey.
That's what dreams do y'all have for the next big things? Who wants to go first?
I'll go.
Okay.
I don't know the sequence of when I'm working on 3 next big things, and so I don't know which one's going to come out first. But one of my big things is the TV adaptation of my book, The Secret Lives of Church Ladies. So my dream is that everybody loves the show and it's there for many, 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 many seasons on HBO Max. So that's one of my dreams.
I am currently talking to movie people, very exciting movie people that I actually like, because a lot of movie people are insane. But we have finally kind of like narrowed it down to a couple of movie people that are interested in some sort of filmic project with regard to the book and in other things. So I'm quite interested to know what it would be like to write for the screen like that. I think is an upcoming thing. I'd like to write another book. I would like to ride a horse. I have never ridden a horse. I want to
Can
do
I
that.
please be there for that, please?
No.
Yes.
I was
Absolutely
there.
not.
Hey, I was
I'm not-
there for Brian playing basketball.
Yeah.
Oh,
I
right.
witnessed that. We did that
Dan
together.
saw me play basketball, and I
I saw
nailed
him,
it.
and I saw him take and make his first shot in 30 years, maybe 30.
Well, I would
Ever.
probably say I've never made a shot. Like I've
Okay,
never
so
made
your
a
first shot,
and you were there for the first time. I just went like that, or I don't even know how you do it. I went like that. I was just mimicking Damon, and I sank a basketball.
and it went in. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I told him you should never touch a basketball again. Like
Nope,
never
never
ever.
again.
Just a perfect experience on the basketball court.
Screamed like a white lady.
Go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
What's your dream, Damon?
My dream.
For your next big thing.
I have some TV stuff in the works, that has been in the works for about a year and a half now. I'm actually it's a long gestation period for TV stuff. I'm learning. I am actually more interested in I have an announcement coming on Monday that I can't share yet. I'll tell you all backstage about it. Also I'm really excited about this podcast thing I have with Crooked Media. That's going to launch in March, and it infuses a lot of themes of the book. I have some really, dope people on it. I'm looking forward to just seeing how that all comes together, how people respond to it. It's like a collaboration with Crooked and Spotify, so it'll be exclusive to Spotify. And I'm really interested in that. And also I have some books in the works too. And I'm really interested in seeing how many different ways I can write. Because I'm writing a YA book right now. I'm editing a humor anthology. I'm also writing another, nonfiction essay sort of book. And so I'm mostly interested in seeing, how far I could take this craft and how much space there is. There's so much space to get better, but how far I could possibly go.
Mm-hmm. There was a question before this one that we can see right now, and it was about the pressure for the art to make money. And has that been the experience for any of us?
Yeah.
Yeah. Fuck yeah. I mean, I think I'll just say that, it's actually been, somewhat of a journey for me right now to find inspirations to replace desperation. Because I've always had, I want to, I just enjoy writing. It's catharsis. It makes me feel good. It makes me laugh. It helps me think. But then there's also been like, holy shit, if I don't do this thing, I'm not going to pay my rent. I'm not going to eat. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to be able to go to brunch. Things of that nature. And I need to go to brunch. And
brunch is essential.
Brunch is essential. And so, yeah, I mean, I'm literally writing essays thinking, okay, this is bottomless mimosa. this is a stack of pancakes. This is extra bacon right here. This is an upcharge. I could get maybe some seafood, maybe a crab cake. Okay. All right. And so, yeah, I think that's a subject that we as a community don't talk about enough, is money, and how money is this unhealthy validator, and this unhealthy equilibrium shifter, and how it dictates a lot of decisions that we make or don't make. And yeah, I mean, money is always present. Money is always a part. Money is always a factor, in regards of, what I decide to do, how I decide to do it. Even, we're not supposed to, you're supposed to say that we don't care about like reviews and awards and prestige and things of that nature. You're supposed to just write, just for the love of the writing, but we know in this industry that shit leads to more money. So you can't be, if you're a pragmatist and you are thinking about, I need to make a living and I want to be able to take care of my family, take care of whoever else needs it. That shit matters too. I mean, this shit matters a lot. I would say that it matters, it matters as much as just the raw sales, like, how much, how your work is regarded. So there is a pressure to continue to succeed and continue to get better because you want to continue to have your work well regarded by peers and by critics, because that shit does definitely affect your pocketbook too.
Mm-hmm. Brian, are you good if we go on to the next question?
Sure.
Okay. Do you feel support or bitterness / resentment when you're designated as the first blank? So I think that means sort of like, how do people receive it? Like, you're the first Black person to write this, or, I think that's what that question means.
If that's what that question means, I know I am not the first Black person to write shit. Like, what I have written has been written before in different ways by people who are more talented, or who've come at my topics from a different perspective. I don't, the way that I read, I know that I'm not the first. I don't think that anybody's ever accused me of being that. So I don't know. I have had interviews with white interviewers who really, and when you're doing an interview and it feels wrong, like when you're doing an interview with oftentimes a white reporter, and it feels wrong, and they have tried to push that like first thing on me, and what it comes down to is I'm just the first one you read. I'm not the first. I'm the first one you read. That doesn't mean I'm the first. You should broaden your reading, because you accusing me of being the first person to do this or that is simply not true. I'm not the first Black gay man to put words to paper. Like, that's on you. That's not me being the first anything.
And I think maybe, that designated part, like this sense in the publishing industry, like there can only be one. Like we couldn't have a Brian Broome book, because why do we need that? We already got a Damon Young book, so we got our Black Pittsburgh guy book. I think in terms of, any bitterness or resentment, that would be from our peers. And one thing that, I love so many things about both of you, but one of the things is something we all do that I think is for our, for our good, is that we keep our circle tight. And we keep our circle tight with people where that's not even a question, that we don't see each other through something that, Kiese Lehman and Robert Jones talk about, who are friends of ours too. We see each other through the lens of care and community and not competition. And so if Damon is getting something, I have absolutely no resentment, because I am Team Damon all the way, because Damon's my friend, but also because I don't buy into publishing's notion that Damon's success is somehow taking something away from me. I resent Brian just in general, though. So
I am absolutely in competition with Deesha. Everything she gets, I'll get mad about it. And it's not because she's a fellow Black artist. It's just because I feel like personally when Deesha gets something that it's being taken away from me. Like, I was so mad when Deesha's book got sold in the UK and mine didn't. I was just like stomping around my house, just mad, just big mad, because it's Deesha, and Deesha doesn't deserve things that I don't have. Like, that's
were you wearing the pajamas when you were stomping?
I was wearing the pajamas she gave me at the time when I was mad about it.
That's a bit of a paradox right there. I think. I'll say too that there is, again, there's a genuine friendship and fellowship and community, and and again, not just us, but there are other, writers. And it's funny, like we're all kind of in the same like age range too, who have like kind of, just kind of gravitated toward each other's work, and not just the same age range, but people who have like published books within like a certain time period. And so you end up seeing each other on like the same panels and the same events, and you're at the same parties and you're up for the same things, and then you just naturally gravitate towards people that whose work you think is dope, and are also like, oh shit, this is a cool person too. I'm not just a fan. We're homies now. We're friends. But there's also the benefits aren't completely altruistic, right? Because being friends with Deesha, being friends with Brian, and being around her work helps my work get better. Too, so reading them and listening to them and being a part of conversations with them. Like if I want to get better, if I want to continue my craft, that's the shit that I have to do too. You know what I mean? So it's not just the friendship is the fulcrum, but it's not just that. There is also a benefit to having a real community, because if you are just trying to be this lone alpha wolf motherfucker, then yeah, you could, get your laws by yourself and get your dinners by yourself, but how are you going to improve? How are you going to get better if you don't have other dope people around you, pushing you, urging you, mentoring you, and you return the favor when you can? And so yeah, I mean, it's what's I've been drinking a little bit, so I might fuck up the phrase, but like what is it, a rising tide lifts all boats or some shit. There we go. Boom. Got it.
Y'all getting deep.
No, wow. I love that. That is so true. Like I have read both of you and been inspired and been emboldened to try different things. I mean, Brian and I became friends because friends of mine said, hey, do you know about this guy? He's amazing. He's funny. He's on Facebook. Send him a friend request. And I would just be in awe that there would be something that happened in the news or in Pittsburgh, and Brian would have a whole coherent essay on it at like 9:35 in the morning. And I'm like, how does he do that? And so I just, I became a fan before I was a friend. Same with Damon. We're both here in Pittsburgh, but I didn't know that. I just started reading this blog he used to write, with no paragraph breaks. That was his style. It was just like, 75 words, one paragraph. And I was like, I like this dude. I like what he's saying. He's funny. Oh wait, he's in Pittsburgh? Okay, we gotta hook up. And so, seeing Damon, I think Damon, of the three of us, Damon's in GQ, Damon's in Esquire. And it's like, yes, that's what I want to do that too. And so just seeing the commitment and the discipline and the artistry and the craft of the two of you, has always meant a lot to me. We have a question from Tracy, who's a new resident to Pittsburgh, and she's asking, as a young Black professional, where can I contribute and make the most impact to enrich the Black Pittsburgh community? I'm going to talk about one little small part, because there are lots of organizations, and I'm not, besmirching organizations, but what's been impactful for me has been the personal relationships I've formed with young people in Pittsburgh, young people who want to write, young people who are writers, who are amazing writers, who just aren't sure how to grow, and who, not only, they don't always know the questions to ask, much less where to get those answers from. So I would say building those personal relationships with young people. And I have to say, I've done that outside of organizations. That's not to say mentoring can't happen within organizations, but these are relationships that have lasted over years, across them going to college, coming home, virtual, now that we're not in the same cities. And so I think that personal one-on-one, I'm here for you. Let me tell you what I've learned and tell me what you want to do. And I think one of the things we might find for young people in the city, because of Pittsburgh's deficits and disparities, they don't always know what's possible. And so that's something that I think that for those of us who have accomplished things, that we are not just showing them from a distance what's possible, but when we are able to spend time and really be involved in each other's lives, we can really show them what's possible. We can really provide the resources. So that's my soapbox on that one.
As you just said, Deesha, there are a lot of organizations. There's a lot of places. One of my favorite is an organization called Vision Towards Peace. Vision Towards Peace, I don't think that as Black people, we talk about our mental health enough. I think that we, are trained up in this culture that tells us, be strong or get run over, be strong, be strong, be strong. And sometimes we just cannot be strong. We are only human beings. Vision Toward Peace is an organization that places the focus on mental health. It's run by Erica Givner, who is a force of nature. And it has so many fingers in mental health pies for Black Pittsburghers. So if that's something that you'd want to contribute to or look into, maybe they have volunteer opportunities or something like that. But I am a big fan of Vision Towards Peace because, as I say, we don't really talk about our mental health, and we are under oftentimes a tremendous amount of stress and pressure, and we face anxiety and depression, and Vision Towards Peace addresses that.
I have to say, Brian, the first time you said that, it sounded like you said Vision Twerk Peace, and
yeah, that's what I said. Vision Twerk
organization.
Peace. Yeah,
organization. I've never heard of Vision Twerk Peace. What organization?
I think that's the new organization that we found.
that could be ours. Yeah, Vision Twerk.
They get together and they twerk until everybody feels mentally healthy.
I mean, I feel like that would be an awesome, an awesome organization. You visualize, you twerk, and then you feel good afterwards. And you're more peaceful.
Oh Lord, please don't let that, Damon, take away from the gravitas of what I was just saying.
I know you're not talking about taking away from the gravitas of what somebody's trying to say, Brian.
I've never done that. Never.
There's also I used to be in Urban League Young Professionals. They do some really good work around the city, and I don't know what they're doing now, because of COVID or whatever, but pre-pandemic they'd have meetings and events and things of that nature. There are also, there's the Pittsburgh Black Media Federation, and I don't know if you even need to be a member of the media to be in that. You could just
I was a member.
You could just read. Yeah, you just read a newspaper or subscribe to the Soul Pit, and you could be a member of the Black Pittsburgh Media Federation. So there's that. NSBE is also pretty active here in Pittsburgh. CMU
National Society of Black Engineers.
Yeah, National Society of Black Engineers is pretty active. The BGSO, which is the Black Grad Student Union at Carnegie Mellon, is also pretty active, and that also tends to traditionally have a network of transplants too. People who are not from Pittsburgh, who are similar. Hey, I'm new here and I'm trying to just do something, do good, meet people, figure out where I should live, where I should eat, where I should hang. I will say also too, for people who are new to the city and are looking for places, Pittsburgh is a very, at least the Black Pittsburgh spaces that I've been a part of are really into like house parties and game nights. It isn't necessarily like a club, black bar sort of city. It's not like DC where you could like just go to U Street or something and just figure out, somewhere to go. You could go to Carson Street if that's your speed, but I don't know if you're on this. I don't know. There's a lot of overlap between the Carson speed and the people who are on this call. Okay, but we're on this Zoom. This Fireside chat. It's not a Zoom. It's a Fireside chat.
See, there's a fireplace behind me. And one hood One Hood.
One Hood. Yeah.
Get involved with One Hood. Connect with Jasiri and Celeste at One Hood. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
BPEP, Black Pittsburgh Empowerment. What's the last P? It's a quiz. Come on.
I don't know.
It's run by Tim Stevens, Black Political Empowerment Project, and it's run by Tim Stevens, who introduced the evening, opened up the evening, and is the founder of the summit. Yes, the original Black and White summit.
And I just want to say really quickly too, and we did an event together, and in the summertime at with the City of Asylum. In the 10. And I said this then, and I want to say it again for people who weren't a part of that. I think one thing that is definitely, I won't necessarily say unique, but exceptional, or not even exceptional or singular, but just a very interesting part of the story of all three of us is that we all did other things before we had literary success, right? We all had other occupations, before this, and I think for anyone who is aspiring, it's really easy to get discouraged, seeing young people, especially if you're on IG or any type of social media, and you see people who are 29 and 33 or whatever who are doing this amazing work, and you have these plans and you have these goals, and you feel like, you have an expiration date. And I feel like all three of us are examples of just that, the fact that that's a fallacy, right? Where there is really no such thing as an expiration date, where as long as you continue to work and you continue to work on your craft, it can happen, it will happen. Right. And so that's the thing that, I've always appreciated about Deesha is that, even before, she blew up, she was writing in journals and doing workshops and, just working on her craft and continue. And it was dope then. I mean, she's gotten doper because she can't help but get doper because that's her, but she was dope then. I mean, and same with Brian. Before we even met, I used to see his essays on Facebook, and people would mention him to me as like, "Oh shit, do you know Brian Broome?" You need to, if you don't. And again, I just think that it's just a really beautiful thing, that that you both have, just continue to ascend. And again, for anyone who was watching this and who feels any sort of, discouragement, which I'm not even sure was a word. It's a word now, discouragement. Don't, because it can happen. And if you continue to work on your craft, it will.
Yeah. One of my favorite stories to tell, and this is the way I remember it. Damon, you remember it differently, is I was many, many years ago, I was downtown and I was working like some job downtown.
This was yesterday. This happened. The story happened yesterday.
I saw Damon like down the street, because you can't miss Damon because he's 8 feet tall. And I was like, that's Damon Young. That's Damon Young. And I was trying to be a writer. And I remember just running up on you, like, and had this like gush of words that come out. And you look kind of scared for a minute because I'm an intimidating presence. But I was like, hi, Damon, my name is Brian, and I'm going to be a writer and blah, 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 blah. And like, and you said to me basically like what you just said, like, keep working. It was like such a remember that old Pepsi commercial where the guy takes off his jersey and throws it at the kid? Like, that's what it felt like, But yeah, that's like one of that's one of my favorite moments, like in Pittsburgh. And now, like, many years later, or many hours later, anyway, like we're sitting here like talking about, being a writer and being a Black writer in Pittsburgh. So as you say, you keep working on it, and things can happen for you,
And I think that's our time. And I would just like to thank both of you for tonight and us being together. Thank you for all the years of friendship. And thanks to the Pittsburgh Racial Justice Summit for bringing us together for this conversation. And thanks to everyone in the audience, and everybody be safe.
Thank you all.
Thank you, everyone. Oh, thank you, interpreters too.
Thank you, interpreters.
Doing
Yes,
an
You're amazing.
amazing job. My goodness, thank you so much.
Everyone have a good night.
All right, good night, everyone.
Good night.
Hey, everybody. It's me again. I know I'm not as exciting as Damon, Deesha, and Brian, but I do want to come on and say thank you so much for joining us. We already knew that was going to be an amazing experience. And I do want to wrap us up by giving them their deserved praise, or as we say, their flowers in the Black community. We're so grateful to have had you with us today, Deesha, Damon, and Brian. You've opened up our summit this year, putting us right where we need to be in conversation and community. Thank you again to you three. Before we go for the night, I'm going to have Tim join us here on stage. And we wanted to thank our committee members tonight before we head out. And then we have a few reminders for you all. So while I'm waiting for Tim, I'll just give you the reminders now. So before we go, I wanted to say tomorrow we will begin at 9 a.m. with a community resource connection room. You can drop in and say hi to us as staff. We'll also have some participating organizations that will be there with us as well. In that room, you will also find our ASL interpreters. So if you didn't get a chance to request services for today, or for tomorrow, sorry, please pop in to see our team and let them know which sessions you will be attending so that we can get interpreters there for you. During lunch at noon tomorrow, the interpreters will be hanging out in the community resource room. So if you need services, changed your mind on what sessions you'd like to attend, or would just like to pop by, that's where you should do so. Information for every session in our community rooms can be found in the program schedule sent to you from Eventbrite via email on our website, as well as in our program book in these same places, which are our website and the email that you were sent from Eventbrite. Lastly, but not least, the Billy Jackson video that chronicles the story of what began this summit, the police encounter that resulted in Johnny Gamage's death. We come here once a year to share with our community that we honor his life and the lives of others that we have lost due to police violence. Please remember that this is why we come here, to honor those lives, to learn in community, and to take it all with us out into the world. There's Tim.
There you are.
Hey. Are you ready to thank our committee members?
Sure, let's go for it.
Let's get started. Okay, so we're going to first thank you to all of our committee volunteers, and then we will thank our committee leads. So I will start by saying a thank you to Andrew DeFusco,
Bonnie Evans,
Bree Casto,
Brittany Kindersmith,
Carrie Chisholm,
Deja Baker,
that worked out well, Duana Anderson,
Gabby Garvin,
James Scott,
Renée Dubesh,
Ronell Bacchus,
Thea Young,
Tim Stevens. Again, I feel like we're doing great.
Janet Lund.
Virginia Dado.
Yvette Shipman.
Fat Man D.
Jennifer Leiden.
Kate DiStefano.
Kate Murin.
Kevin Jarbo.
Maddie Porter.
Mike Pasterkovich.
Nancy Ross.
Noel Doe.
Rachel Karch.
And that is the list of committee members that are helping us out this year. Thank you so much, everyone who has contributed to the summit this year. As you can see on the screen, our founder, Tim Stevens, is here with us tonight. We're going to thank the rest of our committee members, Yvette Shipman, who is our finance director.
Deja Baker, lead organizer.
Like, I can't do that one. Fat Man D, social media coordinator.
Kevin Jarbo, program lead.
Thea Young, outreach coordinator.
Janet Lund, registrations and technical specialist.
Isaac Beachy, our website manager.
Brittany Kindersmith, volunteer coordinator.
Carrie Chisholm, our technology lead.
Bonnie Evans, program book lead.
Bree Castle, our survey manager. And then Rye, her little baby.
Bird Radford, sponsorship and ads coordinator.
Maddie Porter, our event coordinator.
Renée Dubosh, program book co-lead.
And Virginia Dado, our communications manager. We want to thank our sponsors. Go ahead, Tim.
The YWCA, Eliminating Racism, Empowering Women, the YWCA of Greater Pittsburgh. They've been our fiscal sponsor for many, many years.
Yes, they are our fiscal sponsor this year, last year, forever, and hopefully ever. Our next sponsor is PNC Bank.
UPMC, Life-Changing Medicine.
All right, that's it.
If I may, I want to give a shout out to some of our strong supporters of the summit over the decades in various years, including Celeste Taylor, Ken Miller, Randy Francisco, Cynthia Grace Devine Kepner, Evelyn Hawkins. And Deja, I wanted, because we do this every year after the Martin Luther King holiday, I wanted to share this quote from Dr. King. We are caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied in a single garment of destiny. Whatever affects one directly affects us all directly. And when you feel you get tired in the civil rights struggle, I want you to hear this from Stride Toward Freedom, 1958, from Dr. King. The majority of the Negroes who took part in the year-long boycott of Montgomery's buses were poor and untutored, but they understood the essence of the Montgomery movement One elderly woman summed it up for the rest. When asked after several weeks of walking whether she was tired, she answered, "My feet is tired, but my soul is at rest." We have work to do, and let's get started tomorrow morning at the summit.
Well, now I don't want to say anything after that. That was beautiful. Thank you so much, Tim, always for your words and encouragement. And as Tim said, we will see you tomorrow for some unbelievable sessions from our community members doing the work of equity and action every day out here. We thank them, we thank you, and once again, welcome to the Pittsburgh Racial Justice Summit 24. Good night, folks.
Good night, everybody. See you in the morning. Wake up. Get up. Do it.